Treasury of best loved piano music and best loved ballet. Both absolutely free and yours to keep, even if you return the rest of your collection. This magnificent classical library would surely cost $50 or $60 if purchased separately. But due to this special promotional offer, it can be yours for only $19.95. Please stay tuned to order.
To order this prestigious collection, use your credit card and call 1-800-257-1257 or send $19.95 for records or cassettes or $29.95 for compact discs, plus $4.50 postage and handling to Best Loved Classics, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia.
This is CNN.
This is Newsnight, reporting the events that will shape tomorrow.
Their livelihood. This is how they support their families. What do they do now? What do I tell them now?
Another day of unrest, looting, and arson in Los Angeles.
And another night of efforts to keep the rioting in check. Welcome to Newsnight. I'm Susan Rook.
And I'm Jonathan Mann. A curfew is in effect throughout the Los Angeles area, but trouble there is not over. The Los Angeles Police Department now says 19 people are dead. The coroner's office says the number is 21. More than 450 people have been injured in 2 days of rioting. Arson fires have now spread from South Central LA to Hollywood, gutting shops along Hollywood Boulevard's Walk of Fame. The fire department is battling more than 200 fires. 30 of them are considered major. And the job is still a dangerous one. Firefighters are being hampered by everything from gunfire to rock throwing. 3 firefighters have been injured since yesterday. 1 shot in the face. He's in stable condition. In the last 2 days, authorities have responded to nearly 4,000 emergencies. 2,000 National Guard troops are in the streets helping police enforce the curfew, which will be lifted at dawn and may or may not be imposed again tomorrow. Tonight, 24 Guard soldiers reportedly were fired on at a video arcade that was threatened by looters. The Guardsmen did not shoot back. Governor Pete Wilson is sending an additional 2,000 National Guardsmen to LA from Northern California. He's scheduled to meet the press in a little more than an hour from now. Curfews, meantime, extend to LA suburbs, including Santa Monica, Torrance, Inglewood, Compton, and San Fernando. Looting was rampant throughout the day. Thieves pillaged stores and made off with all kinds of merchandise, things from food to televisions. The city itself was virtually shut down, with bus service coming to a halt, sporting events postponed, and businesses and schools closed. The rioting began yesterday after not guilty verdicts for 4 Los Angeles police officers were announced. The 4 white officers were acquitted on assault charges in the now famous beating of Rodney King, a black man. The unrest that at first affected a predominantly black area in South Central Los Angeles now has spread to neighboring communities several miles away.
CNN's Greg Lamont has been keeping us up to date throughout this day. Greg, I believe you're in Hollywood at this point. Tell us where you are and what's happening from your standpoint.
Well, actually, we are in what's called the Rampart Division, which is adjacent to Hollywood. And National Guardsmen are on the streets around us tonight, joining forces with the city police department in a frantic effort to restore calm. Now, if your picture appears a bit darker than normal, it's because we've been told by the police we cannot turn on our lights. A short time ago, a sporting goods store was looted where ammunition and guns were taken. The police tell us that a light would make us a target, and after having beer bottles thrown at us today during live shots and our windshield smashed, if the police say no lights, I say no problem. It has been a very sad day today in Los Angeles. Very sad. When you see your own police department pushed into a position of helplessness, it makes the person on the street feel helpless as well. Helpless and angry at how senseless all of this is. The forces of the police and the National Guard are combining, anticipating another hellish night in the City of Angels, following a day that saw the worst looting here since the 1965 Watts riots. There have been more deaths. This man was shot in the back and the head while standing on the street. Even the paramedics who showed up to help say they are fortunate to be alive because rioters fired bullets at them while they were trying to save the victims of this violence. The fact is, there are too many looters, too many arsonists, and too few police officers to do anything about it. Police stand helplessly by as hundreds of looters bash their way into stores and take seemingly whatever they want. The looting is sporadic, but it is citywide. Hollywood and Beverly Hills are affected. 3 major banks have been closed down out of fear of robbery. Most stores have closed in the downtown area, but looters just crash through the gates and glass with no fear of being caught. In fact, the police, when they do see it, only try to scare them away. Given the level of crime here, only a handful of people have been arrested because police are too busy trying to contain certain areas, not make arrests. The stores that are looted, it's almost like a feeding frenzy. They pour in, grab what they want, and run out. There is thick black smoke everywhere from the hundreds of fires that have been set. The National Guard is now on the streets, but it seems as each hour passes, the strength of the masses grows. People realize they can get away with something, so they do. And nobody seems to know when it will end. National Guardsmen are now able to set up perimeters of protection so that the LA police officers can move into certain sections of the city and arrest looters. In fact, just a short time ago, a couple of dozen looters were brought to this parking lot and taken away. They're also arresting any curfew breakers. Just where we're standing is so different from what it was like today. It's very calm right now, but earlier today there were fires everywhere and easy looting. In fact, one looter was seen getting away on a skateboard. Greg Lamont, CNN Live, Los Angeles.
Greg, you mentioned the National Guardsmen. I heard a report that the delay in mobilizing the National Guardsmen was because of a lack of planning, that they weren't able to mobilize them earlier because they didn't have any ammunition. Have you been able to talk to any of them about why they didn't get on the streets sooner?
The average National Guardsman doesn't quite know why they weren't on the streets earlier, although earlier today I heard Chief Daryl Gates say that he was overwhelmed by how much looting and rioting has gone on. He just didn't expect it and basically sort of admitted that he got caught with his shorts down. What we are finding out is that we look around this area that you can't see it now, obviously it's dark, but there was major fires roaring through malls today. Rioters would go through, take what they want, and then set the place on fire. Now that the National Guardsmen are here, they've got their machine guns with them, and the way that they're dressed is certainly a deterrent. And we were thinking that had these National Guardsmen been on top of the roofs of some of these places when this whole thing began, we would probably not see the hundreds of millions of dollars in damage that we're going to see after all of this is over.
Greg, some of the pictures that I've seen recently are showing fires, but they're not showing the masses of people running around like you saw last night and like you saw during the day. Do people seem to be obeying the curfew, albeit some of them in isolated instances going out and throwing firebombs and attacking things?
Well, I can only speak from the vantage point that I've had for most of this afternoon. There was no less than 6 major fires that we could see burning in a 360-degree angle. And what we saw was that as night began to fall, people began to clear the streets. So maybe this curfew is working at least to some degree, although, like I said, just up the street, all of a sudden the police came rousting in and rounded up about 24 people who were trying to go through what was left over and do some more looting.
The word from the Los Angeles Fire Department is they are also overwhelmed. Part of the reason why is the threat to the firemen. 3 have reportedly been injured. Can you give us some more details about how the firefighters are trying to fight these fires and get them out?
Well, initially the firefighters would go in as they would normally do, but then they found themselves being attacked with rocks, bottles, and in some cases ammunition. One fireman that I'm completely aware of that was shot in the face is now recuperating in the hospital. Then the fire department said that we're not going to go anywhere unless we get some police protection. Police began to show up, and what it would only do is delay the whole process of trying to put out a fire. These firemen are highly frustrated, and there were reports today that even when the firemen showed up with police protection, they, when the firemen showed up today, they were still being pelted with rocks and some bottles, so there's fear. And also on top of that, earlier today, a body was brought into this parking lot, a man who was shot a couple of blocks from here. He was standing on a street corner. He was shot in the back and in the head, and someone picked him up and put him in the back of their car as some rioting was going on and drove him up to the calmer part of this parking lot. Some paramedics showed up. They put their monitors on the man and pronounced him dead on the scene. I was talking with the paramedics, and the paramedics say that even when they go out to try to save lives, that they have been shot at with bullets and have been harassed by rocks and bottles. So it's a sad commentary on our society when those who risk their own lives to save ours all of a sudden become targets of death.
Thank you, CNN's Greg Lamont, keeping us up to date with the latest. Jonathan?
Moving north now, San Francisco's Mayor Frank Jordan is expected to announce a state of emergency and curfew tonight in his city. That statement's expected from one moment to the next. We'll bring it to you live when it comes. In San Francisco, rioters have started trash can fires. They've shattered windows of stores and hotels in the Market Street shopping district. About 600 police officers in riot gear and on motorcycles are trying to control widespread looting. Earlier, protesters virtually shut down the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge for 3 hours. Several hundred people were arrested. People coast to coast are speaking out about the King case. In most cases today, demonstrations were peaceful. But in Atlanta, angry black youths went on a rampage through downtown, smashing windows of cars and businesses, attacking several people. Rioters who beat up on one man yelled, "This is how Rodney King felt." At least 17 people were injured, hundreds were arrested. A curfew is in effect for nearly another 5 hours. It will go on until 5 a.m. Eastern. The Georgia National Guard is on standby.
And as Jonathan just mentioned, we are expecting a live news conference from the mayor of San Francisco momentarily. We will, of course, bring that to you as it happens. We will take a break. Our coverage continues right after this.
Newsnight is brought to you by Range Rover, the most sensible luxury car in the world.
Performance, endurance, elegance. What more can anyone ask of a luxury car?
Quite a bit, actually. The sounds of nature can be soothing, but not on your cellular telephone. With Oki cellular phones, you hear clear, true voice quality. Buzz-free. No buzzes, hisses, or squawks. So don't get stung by a phone with inferior sound quality. Get an Oki cellular phone. You'll hear the difference.
For tires, there's only one name I look up to.
America's #1 name in tires.
And there's one tire store that I trust.
Is now at America's #1 tire store. Goodyear comes to Sears. And right now, selected Goodyear tires are introductory priced.
I got Goodyear tires. I got them backed by Sears. I don't need to hear anything else.
America's #1 tire now at America's #1 tire store.
Who's going to back you better than Sears?
Last time I stained my house with that other brand. This time, I'm using Thompson stain.
Only Thompson's House and Deck Stain contains Thompson's Water Seal. It waterproofs better than even the leading brand's premium stain.
Now that's beautiful protection.
Thompson Stain.
The sporting life, there's nothing quite like it. I'm Jim Hubert. Join me monthly for a look at some of those whose stories may not make the headline, but whose dedication to the pursuit of excellence makes all the difference in the world.
The Sporting Life begins Saturday morning on CNN.
Earlier, we told you about the violence in San Francisco. Mayor Frank Jordan, mayor of San Francisco, is just about to speak. Let's go to that now.
An emergency order, a proclamation for the city and county of San Francisco. And as a result of this proclamation, I have assumed authority to deploy city personnel and resources anywhere and wherever I deem it necessary to quell unlawful conduct. I've also issued a curfew order effective as of 9 p.m. tonight, as of 14 minutes ago, and it will be in effect until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Any person violating this order may be arrested by the police. I'm working in close contact with Chief Richard Hongisto, who's here with me tonight, to my right, and also with Sheriff Mike Hennessy and with City Attorney Louise Rennie. We also have the President of the Board of Supervisors here with me tonight, Kevin Shelley, as well. I'm working in close contact with all of them, and I believe that the situation now is sporadic out on the streets of San Francisco. There is looting taking place in the Market Street corridor, particularly between 4th and 5th Streets, and as well as Union Square area, where we're seeing now department stores and jewelry stores and some of the retail shops that have sporadic looting. And I might add that we're up over 340 arrests at the present time, and some of the people we've taken into custody have been armed with weapons. To update you on the current situation, we've also received responses pursuant to mutual aid agreements from the California Highway Patrol, from the Santa Clara County and Alameda County Sheriffs and Police Departments, and agencies have already arrived and will continue to be deployed throughout the night. We've made at least, as I mentioned, 340 arrests, and there are many more that are now contained and will be subject to arrest within the next 45 minutes to an hour. I have reports also that 5 police officers have been injured, most of them through bottles that have been thrown at them, and one is at St. Francis Hospital at the present time. There are a number of fires in affected areas, but none of them are major. There are a couple of structural fires, and the fire department assures me that they do not believe that they're related to tonight's disturbances. Muni has scattered reports of several buses with vandalism and graffiti and broken windows. 3 bus lines have been pulled from service at the request of the police department. They are the number 19 in Potrero Hill, number 44 and 54 in the Bayview Hunters Point area, and Market Street lines are still being rerouted to Mission Street to divert the traffic. Montgomery and Powell Streets remain closed. Cable cars have all been taken off the lines and are now inside. I want the public to know that my administration respects the right of freedom of expression, freedom to assemble, and freedom to dissent. However, I will not tolerate violations of the law, especially where they endanger people's person or property. I urge all citizens to remain indoors during the curfew. And I repeat this, I urge all citizens to stay indoors during the curfew, that is from 9 p.m. tonight until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. That will enable the police department to bring all disturbances under control. We will be conducting a continuous assessment of the situation throughout the night. And I believe that at this point, there are a change in some of the areas of who's showing up. Earlier we had a number of college students. We had a great many who were young Caucasians and some from mixtures of different neighborhoods of San Francisco. Now we may have a variety coming in from other parts of the city, of some of the neighborhoods in the Haight-Ashbury and the Western Addition and Bayview Hunters Point, but we may be finding some coming in from outside of San Francisco. So we are going to use whatever measures are needed to stop the looting and to stop the property damage. We have numerous police officers from San Francisco on the scene. More have been called to our city from off-duty status, and with mutual aid in effect, we have numerous California Highway Patrol officers and some from, as I mentioned earlier, Santa Clara County and Alameda County. We believe we have adequate resources to handle whatever eventuality might occur during the evening. We also have expanded our holding cells so that those who are arrested will remain arrested overnight due to this emergency proclamation that I have signed and the curfew law that's in effect. We have people who will be housed at 17th and Valencia Streets in one large area. Others will be housed in the gymnasium, if necessary, at the city prison at the 7th and Bryant at the Hall of Justice. And we're looking at another holding area that could be made available in the immediate future at one of the piers on the wharf area. And if necessary, we can go a step further and look for possible assistance from facilities that might be located at Treasure Island or the Presidio of San Francisco. I'm just asking the citizens to remain calm and that the situation will be under control in the near future, but give us an opportunity, let the police department go out and do the job that they are trained to do, and that we will handle the arrests, and we will make sure that somehow within the next few hours, hopefully we'll have the whole situation under control.
Mayor George, this curfew was issued on very short notice. How do you plan to enforce this curfew with many people who have legitimate reasons to be out on the streets right now, and they don't have any knowledge of this curfew because they're not watching TV or listening to radio?
The police officers have all been notified of this curfew that's in effect. They're using bullhorns, they're distributing information. The news media has the information. It is being mass distributed. Police officers will have written leaflets. They will use police discretion so that people who are out in the street will be advised to go home. They will not be immediately arrested. If there is resistance or someone does not want to follow up, they then are subject to arrest. Those who are inside at restaurants or at social events are not subject to be sent home. It's only those who are roaming the streets that could be causing problems.
Mayor Jordan, do you have any damage assessments at this point?
No, not at this time, but I do know that there is an escalation of looting taking place in the Union Square area and in the Market Street corridor, and we do not want to, I certainly do not want to see the situation escalate to what happened in Los Angeles or in Atlanta.
Mayor, is it necessary for you to ask the governor for any assistance, or is this state of emergency something that you have to confirm with the governor?
No, this went through a mutual aid which has already been prearranged and set up for just this type of an emergency with all 9 Bay Area counties involved. And also, when I declare an emergency, it goes through the city and county of San Francisco, the various department heads, to the city attorney's office, and to the board of supervisors. Those notifications have been made, and this is, to me, a precaution and a preventative measure so that we can do this in a rapid fashion rather than wait until midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. I do not want to see fires or arson start to occur, do not want to see additional looting take place. This is the best way to immediately handle a situation and to bring it under control.
You have been listening to a live news conference by San Francisco Mayor Frank Jordan declaring a state of emergency in the city of San Francisco. He imposed a curfew effective immediately. It is now 9 p.m. local time. He said the curfew will remain in effect until 6 a.m. local time. He talked about sporadic violence and looting. He also said there were numerous fires, but apparently no major fires as there are in Los Angeles. He said that 5 San Francisco police officers were injured. At least 1 has been hospitalized. He said there's been more than 340 arrests. Some of those people arrested had weapons. He expects, he says, other arrests. Again, you have been listening to San Francisco Mayor Frank Jordan declaring a state of emergency. We will take a break. Our coverage continues right after this.
This CNN News Quiz is brought to you by Toyota, reminding you to always buckle up. Do it for those who love you.
Elmer, I want a new car.
We're not new car kind of people.
A Toyota Corolla with all kinds of fancy options.
We're not fancy options kind of people.
But now we can save big on air conditioning, AM, FM stereo cassettes, power windows and door locks, the whole shebang.
Save up to $1,100 on the Toyota Corolla LE Extra Value Package.
Guess we're fancy options kind of people now.
Change is good.
I love what you do for me, Toyota!
Gillette presents Sensor, the system, the technology that will change the way you shave forever. Sensor, twin blades set on springs to read your face and respond. Independent suspension to sense and adjust to every curve of your face. No other razor comes close. Gillette Sensor, for the best shave a man can get.
Usually, when you send flowers out of town, you give the order to somebody who takes a cut. Then he passes the order to somebody else who takes a cut. But now there's Flowers Direct that actually lets you speak to a florist in the town where you're sending the flowers. Flowers Direct, or We Cut, is the middleman. Call Flowers Direct now, 1-800-621-2121.
Oh, it was nuts.
Absolute chaos. Every day was a different surprise. I can't afford surprises. I have to find something to help me keep this place under control. That's exactly why we got this Honeywell control system. We're more efficient now, conserving raw materials, turning out a better product. Sure, we could survive without it, but who just wants to survive?
Honeywell, helping you control your world.
A new survey shows most Americans believe the jury reached the wrong decision when it acquitted 4 Los Angeles police officers of beating Rodney King. The poll was taken tonight. In the USA Today poll, only 11% said the jury's verdict was right. 89% said it was wrong. When asked if they believe the justice system is biased against blacks, 36% of the whites surveyed said yes. 81% of the blacks said yes. Those surveyed were evenly split when asked about the rioting in Los Angeles. Almost half said it is unjustified, while almost half said it is wrong but understandable. One of the jurors got into a sharp exchange of comments with Rodney King's attorney tonight on Larry King's show.
How did you react to the terminology about guerrillas and the exchange between the police officers?
I reacted to that by looking at the time frame. That was another call, had nothing to do with Rodney King's incident. It was a house call on a home problem, and as everybody knows, any policeman hates to go within the home confines when there's an argument within the family.
But the term guerrillas didn't bother you?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Does it bother you, Stephen?
It sickens me. Lawrence Powell's demeanor on the witness stand, to me, was smug, was arrogant. I think that the racial animus that he possessed then and now, by making that comment, showed that race was a motivation. I just don't know where this juror was when this evidence came out.
I got to take a break and take some
shocking.
Ma'am, are you saying that Rodney King's color had nothing to do with this at all?
Absolutely nothing at all.
If this had been 4 black police officers and a white assailant, a white person in a car, you'd have voted the same way?
Absolutely.
The juror, who asked not to be identified, said the police were not guilty because they did what they were trained to do based on Rodney King's actions.
Black leaders will be meeting with President George Bush tomorrow morning to discuss the rioting in California. The White House says Mr. Bush wants to hear their suggestions for calming the crisis and their views on race relations. The Justice Department announced today it will accelerate its investigation into the beating. The probe will focus on whether Rodney King's civil rights were violated. Officials say it will include all the officers at the scene that night, not just the 4 who were charged. White House spokesman Marlon Fitzwater is accusing, meantime, Democratic presidential candidate Bill Clinton of trying to use the King verdict as a political issue. Fitzwater said, quote, "I noticed that Slippery Bill chose to treat this as a political opportunity." Clinton said that's not true.
I can't imagine what I said about this that would have provoked that kind of response.
It's obvious, though, that there's been poll after poll to show some improvement in Pennsylvania, but that shows that the question in some voters' minds about character, and the press has used the word slippery. You refuse to say why the president's spokesperson might say slippery?
Well, we know that it's a very political White House, so they don't miss a chance. But, you know, today, I just don't want to get into a political fight today. I want us to focus on Los Angeles today. I got months and months and months to fight with the president and with Marlon Fitzwater, and I'll welcome that. I just don't want to put any static into our focus on this Los Angeles issue. He obviously, his choice of words may have been deliberate, but what provoked the response must have been something that he was told I said. I've tried not to make this political. I just want to get it over with.
Clinton made the statement in Birmingham, Alabama, when he spoke on race relations.
Recapping now, a 3rd city in the U.S. is under curfew. San Francisco's Mayor Frank Jordan issued a statement not long ago, which we showed to you, saying that the curfew went into effect 28 minutes ago from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. local time. He's described the situation in San Francisco as one of sporadic violence. 5 police officers, he said, were injured. He said he was taking the steps to avoid the kind of trouble that Los Angeles and Atlanta have already seen. He said, and I'm quoting here, "I will not tolerate violation of the law."
The mayor also declared a state of emergency for San Francisco. There have been Approximately 340 arrests so far. Some of those people did have weapons. The mayor says he expects more arrests soon. Again, a state of emergency in San Francisco. Violence continues in Los Angeles. We will keep you posted with the latest. Meantime, Inside Politics is next. I'm Susan Rook.
I'm Jonathan Mann. Stay with us.
Before investing in any luxury car, may we suggest you do slightly more than kick the tires.
For tires, there's only one name I look up to.
America's #1 name in tires.
And there's one tire store that I trust.
Is now at America's #1 tire store. Goodyear comes to Sears. And right now, selected Goodyear tires are introductory priced.
I got Goodyear tires. I got them backed by Sears. I don't need to hear anything else.
America's #1 tire now at America's #1 tire store.
Who's going to back you better than Sears?
The fascination always existed. The human body, without doubt, is the greatest of inventions. Flawless in design, capable of astonishing feats. Amazingly, the harder the body is worked, the stronger, more beautiful it becomes. To unlock your body's potential, we proudly offer Soloflex. 32 old-fashioned iron-pumping exercises, each correct in form and balance, all on a machine that fits in the corner of your home. Soloflex, simple and efficient, like the body itself, which may explain why it looks less like a machine and more like a work of art. For a free brochure, call anytime.